Should you stay in Australia or leave the country for good? I'm joined here by an Australian who will share his perspective on his native country and which types of people or which groups of people should seriously consider staying and which group or groups should be packing their bags and heading for a more prosperous land. Thank you so much for coming, Dan. Explain to me the picture you currently see in Australia.
Well, good to see you again, Gerald. It's 12 months later, so I'm excited to be back in Paraguay. Look, the pictures, it's a multifaceted one, I think. So depending on who you are, what class of Australian you are, and we are a class society in Australia now, based on a few different factors, your outcome could be really good or really bad. So I think if you are sitting in Australia watching this video, deciding what your next move should be, you probably just need to think about who are you and where do you fit in Australian society. And I guess now for me, it's 4 years out of the country, 2 years permanently out of the country. And I've traveled probably over 150 countries in that time. And I average on my busy times of the year, 24 hours of travel per week and a new country every fortnight at least. And so I'm just getting this really fascinating global picture of the world, the West, and I'm not just in the West, I'm in all the countries and on every continent except for Africa. And so I'm just getting a really fascinating live display of how the world is currently changing. And then I'm back in Australia about 3, sometimes 4 times a year. And so I'm also observing the changes there. And I've actually made some notes, so I might refer to them to try and make this helpful for your viewers. But I guess if they can understand where they are in Australian society and then decide with that information, you can project out as to what your future life might be like. So for example, if you are a property owner and investor and you have paid off a large portion of your mortgage, life's going to be pretty good for you. I came up with a few different categories and I might just touch on how your life could be over the coming years. And obviously this is just my opinion. People can jump in the comments and they'll have different observations. That's fine. Like up to you, you do you. But you've got your property investor class. You've got your politicians and your bureaucrats. You've got your businesses, big businesses with lobbyists who are doing, productive things and standing really close to the money printer. Then you've got your wage earners, who pay tax or their tax gets deducted out of their pay. Then you've got your entrepreneurs and your small businesses. And then you've got your less fortunate people who perhaps rely on government services of any kind. And so I think depending where you are on that scale, and there's obviously going to be other categories, but just what I could think of at the time, the cost of government and the cost of Australia versus the opportunities you receive in return, which allow you to do things like own a house, have kids, be safe, your experience is going to be very different. So I think if you are part of that property investor class, or if you're sitting on a healthy deposit from mum and dad and you can get into something that, there's some fantastic real estate. Australia is one of the best countries in the world for really high quality real estate. The real estate market's very mature. There is an unlimited supply of Indians and people coming to the country. They are pumping the immigration. And so you will be able to charge high rents. You will be living a good life. Your property is going to appreciate in value. And so if you want to live a luxury life and you're in that class, I think you're just going to be fine. And I would stay in Australia if I was, in that bracket. So life's good. You can isolate yourself. I see this in Brazil. I see this in all other countries. If you got money, no matter what happens to the rest of society, you can just build bigger fences. You can have private security. I'm not saying Australia's at that stage, except for Western Sydney, so you could just live a good life. So that's fine. Again, if you are a politician, if you are a bureaucrat, and you're on the side of politics that's making the decisions, you can just vote your salary up. If you're feeding government, the government machine is massive. It's probably half the population, directly or indirectly working for some government related job. So your salaries, you can probably strike or vote and get your salary up to keep it up with inflation. You'll have all sorts of good benefits. So yeah, life could also be quite good for you. And again, if you are in any of those industries, we've got this thing called NDIS, it's National Disability Insurance Scheme. I know plenty of guys who are doing this. So you can basically start businesses that serve disabled people, and it's a money printing machine. So you can, I've heard of people getting helicopters to wineries on this, because they're disabled and the government pays for everything. So it's a total money printer. So as long as you're serving someone disabled, we're now like the most disabled country in the world statistically. So, that's interesting. But if you are serving that industry or anything to do with the disability, you've probably got you can keep ahead of inflation, and you can always be printing new opportunity for yourself. So I see good times ahead for all those people. And if you're in one of those categories, good luck to you. You can probably live a good life in Australia and it's still available to you. So if you're a wage earner in a big city, or any city, we only have about 6 big cities, and you're earning, let's call it 200,000 Australian dollars, what's your take home going to be? I guess you'll be 45% tax plus 2% Medicare. I'm just doing this in my head, something like 130,000 take home. You'll need to spend 50 plus grand. If you've got a wife and kids, you'll need more than 2 bedrooms. So it's 50 grand in rent, more than that probably in a city. So what do you have after that? That's 80 grand. You're going to need a car, petrol, call that 10 grand a year for a car. You're going to need food. Your wife's going to want to do fun stuff, and the kids are expensive. My mates have all got kids, they're expensive. So good luck saving for a house deposit in any reasonable amount of time. So just forget about that. You'll be renting. Maybe your wife can work and then you can double, maybe she can do full-time work or something. I think wage earners, you really want to be doing your numbers and just thinking, what does it cost to save for a deposit? How much does a kid cost? How much does a wife cost? How much does a car cost? And how much has my food gone up? Because I notice it, because I'm going back periodically to the country. I like to eat healthy food because I'm more productive when I eat well. And, I guess, what am I spending when I go back to Australia? I guess I spend about $400 on food for the week. So you got to factor that in. And then there's all these other costs and things. So if you really want to be owning your house, maybe that's not available to you. Maybe there's other options. Maybe you can rent vest or something like that. But you are going to be a slave to the bank, and you're not going to be free to sort of live your life, in my personal observation. I'm sure there's exceptions to that. So you got your wage earners, you got your entrepreneurs and your business people. So they're going to have to factor in cost of land, which equals rent, cost of labor, cost of electricity, taxes. So if you're starting a new business and you don't know if your idea is any good, you might be taking a punt. You're going to have all these costs whether you like it or not. Our whole government is run by non-business people. Our Prime Minister has never ever had a job outside of government. So we're led by people who kind of think you're the enemy. So they actually have no idea what your life is like. So you're going to be up against it if you want to trial a new idea in Australia. So you might have to be creative. If you do, there are exceptions to the rule. If you are doing something that the government likes, they'll just give you free money. There's some preachers in Sydney who got like $20 million grant, no question asked, because they're very pro Palestine. That's the government's position. That's up to them. So if you do something that's favorable to the government, then you might just be able to get free money. But if you're wanting to just try, I love business. That's one of my passions. I made the decision that it wasn't feasible to try new ideas in Australia. And I think probably I know a lot of young Australians are making that decision, because it's a tough one, because you get so passionate about your business idea and your dreams and your goals, and that's what you want to focus on. But then you don't necessarily understand that the government is actually a 50-50 partner or more. And you're like, what am I getting in return for this? So that's something you really, if you are that person considering starting a business and you're sitting in Australia and you've never seen what business is like in other countries, jump on YouTube and do some research, because my personal lived experience, having gone from Australian bureaucracy and taxes to other much less, literally the motto of the tax department in where I have my business based is the relationship is simple. That's the tax department's motto in Georgia, Tbilisi, Georgia. That's where it is. So it's definitely not simple in Australia. It's burdensome and increasing. So there's that. And then there is the person on government benefits who relies majority on support from the government. You're gonna need to do what the government wants, because you got to prove that your age to use social media. They're going to have digital ID. They will shut your banking down. I don't believe what any of the politicians say if they say otherwise, that we're heading in the direction of full control. So if you're relying on any government services, again, you might be able to live a good life and this may not bother you. So good luck to you if that's your sort of, and everyone's in a different, people have family and loved ones to look after, and I want them to be supported as well, but they just have to now accept that they will need to comply with what they're told, or that their money will get turned off. I could see this coming. That was one of the reasons for my making the move, and it looks like it's coming. So that's, I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm not blabbering on too much, but I just think from a perspective of a person in Australia, you just got to understand where you are, and then with that information, decide what you're going to do about it, if anything. If I guess, what was the decision process I went through? I thought about it. I thought, what's the direction the country's going in? Can I change it? Were the things that I thought. I made the observation and decision that it's not going to change, because I made the decision that's not going to change in favor of small businessmen, because that's the bracket that I fit into, entrepreneurs, small business. So my thoughts were, there's a hell of a lot of people who own property, and there's a hell of a lot of people that work for the government. They're going to vote themselves, in their own interests, and good luck to them. Maybe they should, but that's not in the interests of small business or entrepreneurs. So that was my reason to leave, and also to the fact that I felt like a cow for 20 years, paying the equivalent of a full-time average salary for an Australian in tax to the government, and receiving nothing in return, and not owning a house. So I was like, there's nothing in this for me. And or do you stay and fight? And it's do you stay and fight for change? And I guess if you are someone, if you're maybe an older Australian and you actually own part of Australia, and you might have a different perspective. But if you're a young man in your 20s just trying to get started, or anyone under 40 perhaps who hasn't gotten into the property market, okay, you've been educated in Australia and you've lived in Australia, that's great, but you don't really owe Australia anything, because it's like, what's Australia? This is going to come off really poorly in the comments. I'm sure people are going to roast me for this, but you just have to be a little bit harsh and be like, what's in this for me? Like, okay, you want to tax me 47%, but I still can't buy a home and have a family. Like, where's the value here? So people just need to assess that and see where they are on the scales. And if you are prepared to stay and fight for change, good luck to you. That's great. I decided not to. I'm Australian, but I'm also British, but I'm also Guyanese, and I'm soon to be Paraguayan. So I'm just considering myself a citizen of the world now. I don't feel like I owe anything more to the country. I love the country. I'll still go and visit as a tourist. All my family's there. It's great. But, the world's a big place. There's a lot of opportunity. Like, I've made the decision that Paraguay, for me, is an amazing personal tax base, but I'm not basing my business here. I'm basing my business in another country. I start Spanish school next month. I'm passionate about various things. I love boats and planes and business. I've got the boats in my business. I live a wonderful life traveling the world testing boats, but I've always wanted to learn to fly. And here in Paraguay, I can do that at a really affordable price. So that's going to be my life here. I'm going to be learning to speak Spanish and learning to fly a plane. And that's good for me. I wouldn't be able to do that if I just remained in Australia paying, my effective tax rate is 1%. So I now have a team. We're a team of 5 people in the company. I can take risks. I can experiment with ideas, which I'm always having, but they're not always successful ideas. But with a 1% tax rate, low bureaucracy, freedom to think and be creative, I can try, I can fail, and then I can try again, which is what I do. And in Australia, because I also had a business and I had staff, and I had my monthly overheads were $40,000. When you fail, you go back 6 months, and then you have to work your ass off to try and just get back to zero. But in this setup, you're able to fail more and faster, and your ability as an entrepreneur to reach success or higher, faster levels of success, in my lived experience, is easier.
Thank you for watching. We appreciate you. And if you're interested in relocating abroad, feel free to reach out to us at nomadelite.com.